The underestimated humans. The alien empire had long been known for its power. Across the galaxy, their ships were feared, and their armies crushed all who dared to stand against them. They were the perfect empire, technologically advanced, ruthless, and unchallenged. Their soldiers were powerful, their weapons unmatched. When the alien leaders set their eyes on Earth, they saw a planet full of weak, primitive beings, humans. They thought it would be easy to conquer the Earth, to wipe out the human race in mere days. The alien empire had no idea how wrong they were. As the alien fleet neared Earth, the high commanders sat in their massive warships, discussing their plan. The humans, they assumed, would offer little resistance. They saw the small human armies, primitive technology, and weak defenses. Earth's military forces were nothing compared to the alien war machines. It wasn't even worth a second thought for the invaders. In their minds, humans were fragile and incapable of fighting back against their advanced weapons and tactics. On Earth, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the terror that was about to unfold. It wasn't until the first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere that panic began to spread. People screamed in the streets as the sky was filled with ships, their dark shapes blocking out the sun. The alien ships were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Massive, sleek, and powerful. The first strike was sudden and devastating. Cities were hit, buildings crumbled, and millions of people fled in fear. It was the beginning of what seemed like the end for humanity. However, what the alien empire didn't understand was the strength of human spirit. It wasn't in their weapons or their technology. It was in their ability to adapt, to fight, and to survive against all odds. The governments of Earth had long prepared for such an event, though no one had imagined an invasion of this scale. In secret underground bunkers, military leaders had worked together, creating plans for a defense they hoped they would never need. But now, it was too late to be afraid. Humanity had no choice but to rise up and face the invasion head-on. As the alien forces began their attack, they quickly found out that humans were not so easily defeated. What the aliens had dismissed as primitive human technology began to show its true power. Human fighters, piloting old jets and ground tanks, took to the skies and the Earth, fighting with everything they had. Though their weapons were no match for the alien ships, they fought with determination. The aliens laughed at their efforts, thinking them desperate, hopeless. But even as they laughed, they were starting to notice something. The humans were clever. They fought with a resourcefulness that the alien commanders had not anticipated. They had no intention of surrendering, no matter how hopeless the situation seemed. In the skies, human jets darted through the alien fire, using tactics the aliens hadn't seen before. It wasn't just about power, it was about speed, about unpredictability. The alien forces tried to follow them, but the humans were too quick, too clever. Their movements seemed random, chaotic, but there was a method to the madness. The aliens quickly realized that they couldn't just rely on their superior weapons. They had to fight smarter, but the humans were already one step ahead. On the ground, humans fought like animals defending their territory. Using every tool they had, they launched counterattacks. The alien foot soldiers, equipped with advanced armor and weapons, found themselves facing guerrilla warfare tactics they didn't understand. The humans had no intention of giving up their planet without a fight. Buildings that the aliens destroyed were turned into traps. Abandoned streets became ambush zones, where human forces appeared from every corner to strike fast and hard. At first, the aliens didn't take these attacks seriously. They thought the humans were only delaying the inevitable. It seemed like a game to them, a small resistance that would burn out quickly. But then something changed. As the battle raged on, the aliens began to notice patterns they hadn't expected. Humans were incredibly unpredictable. No matter how many times they tried to outsmart them, humanity always had another trick up its sleeve. The aliens, who thought themselves superior in every way, were beginning to realize that the humans they had underestimated were not so weak after all. The alien commanders grew uneasy. The battles were taking longer than they had planned. Their weapons were still more advanced, but the humans were putting up a fight they hadn't anticipated. The aliens could see it now. This would not be an easy victory. The humans were not going down without a fight. In the cities, where the most intense battles were happening, humans fought with desperation. They fought for their families, their homes, and their future. It wasn't just about survival. It was about proving to the aliens that they were wrong, that humanity was stronger than anyone could have imagined. The alien commanders started to grow frustrated. They had underestimated humanity. They had believed that Earth was just another planet to conquer. But the humans weren't just fighting for their survival, they were fighting for their very identity. And that, the aliens realized, was something they hadn't considered. The alien empire had made a grave mistake. As the sun set on the first day of battle, the aliens were forced to reconsider their strategy. They had thought the war would be over in hours, maybe days. But now, they understood that humanity was far from weak. This war was going to last much longer than they had ever expected, and they had no idea just how powerful humans could be. The first clash. The first full day of battle had ended, but the war was far from over. The alien empire had anticipated a quick victory, a march across Earth that would end with the planet's complete submission. But something unexpected had happened. The humans, despite their seemingly primitive tools and limited resources, had put up a much fiercer fight than the aliens had ever imagined. Their technology was not as advanced, but their will to survive, their unpredictability, and their resilience had surprised the invaders. The alien fleet had launched its assault, focusing on major cities across the globe. Bombs rained down from the skies, and the ground trembled beneath the weight of alien war machines. Earth was being ravaged, but humanity was not giving up. Instead, they were adapting, using every inch of the planet to their advantage. On the ground, the alien forces swept through cities with terrifying efficiency. Their weapons tore through buildings, their soldiers advanced with ruthless precision. But in the midst of this destruction, something strange was happening. Humans weren't running. They weren't giving in. Instead, they were disappearing into the shadows, striking back in ways the aliens didn't expect. Entire streets became battlegrounds, where humans ambushed the invaders from every direction. The aliens had underestimated Earth's defenders. They had thought they would easily capture the planet, but they now realized that their enemy was much more formidable than they had given credit for. In the air, human jets soared, dodging alien fire with impossible speed. The alien commanders had assumed that Earth's technology was outdated, that their ships would easily overpower the human fleet. But the humans were clever. They used hit-and-run tactics, circling back just as the aliens thought they were safe. The alien ships had advanced weapons, but they lacked the agility of the human fighters. The humans didn't need overwhelming firepower. They needed strategy. And that's exactly what they used. One of the most shocking tactics the humans employed was their use of Earth's natural terrain. The alien fleet, which had been designed for intergalactic warfare, was ill-equipped to handle the planet's environment. Forests, mountains, and even urban sprawl became weapons in the hands of the humans. They used every inch of land to create traps, luring alien forces into the heart of dense forests where their massive ships couldn't maneuver. The human forces, with their smaller, faster crafts, took full advantage of the environment, ambushing aliens from unexpected angles. At ground level, the resistance was organized in small cells, groups of civilians and soldiers working together, attacking the aliens whenever they could. They used guerrilla tactics that the alien forces were not prepared for. Bombs were planted in abandoned buildings, designed to explode in surprise attacks. Traps were set, and alien patrols were ambushed in dark alleyways. It was a war of attrition. The alien forces had the superior firepower, but humans had something far more dangerous: unpredictability. The aliens, who had believed that their advanced weaponry and overwhelming numbers would crush humanity's spirit, were starting to feel the first signs of doubt. The human resistance was not just surviving. They were making a statement. They weren't afraid. And that was something the aliens didn't know how to deal with. The first real turning point came when a small human cell managed to infiltrate a critical alien communications hub. The humans didn't have the technology to crack the alien encryption codes, but they had something else: determination. After hours of close-quarters combat, the humans succeeded in planting an explosive device within the alien hub, taking it out and cutting off the enemy's communication network. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The alien commanders were furious. They had underestimated the humans, thinking them incapable of coordinated strikes like this. They had thought that Earth's lack of advanced technology would be their downfall, but it had instead given humanity an edge. The humans had to rely on their wits, their ability to think on their feet, and that made them more dangerous than any alien army had realized. As the second day of the battle began, the humans were preparing for their next move. They weren't just waiting for the aliens to attack, they were setting the stage for the next phase of the conflict. They knew that the aliens had only one option left: to escalate their assault. But the humans had learned something that the aliens hadn't. They knew that even in the face of overwhelming power, humans could still turn the tide of war. The aliens, still confident in their technology and strength, launched another assault, this time with greater force. But this time, the humans were ready. They had learned from their first encounters, adapting to the alien tactics and finding new ways to fight back. Their resistance was growing stronger, more organized, and the aliens couldn't help but feel a sense of unease creeping in. Despite their technological superiority, the alien forces had failed to realize one simple truth: humanity would never give up. They might have underestimated the humans in the beginning, but the tables were starting to turn. The humans had shown the invaders that they were not weak. They were far stronger than the aliens had ever imagined. In the quiet moments between the battles, humans gathered together, sharing stories of their survival, of the lives they had lost, and of the hope that was now burning brighter than ever. They had become more than just a resistance. They had become a united force, fighting for their future, for their planet, and for everything they held dear. As the alien commanders looked down on the battlefields below, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing. The war was far from over, but the aliens now knew that humanity was not the easy target they had once believed them to be. This fight would be different. The humans were not backing down. And the aliens had no idea just how close they were to realizing that they had made a grave mistake in underestimating the strength of Earth's defenders. The turning point. The battle had raged for days, and while the aliens still held the upper hand in terms of sheer firepower, something had begun to shift in the air. The alien commanders, sitting in their sleek warships above Earth, could see the tide of the war slowly turning. It wasn't their weapons that had failed them, nor their strategy. It was something far deeper. The humans, those fragile creatures they had dismissed as weak, were proving to be far more resourceful and determined than anyone had expected. Every time the aliens thought they had the upper hand, humanity struck back, using tactics that seemed chaotic at first, but were slowly revealing themselves to be brilliantly coordinated. And now, a new weapon had appeared, something that the alien forces had never anticipated. The humans had found a way to fight back with the very technology the aliens had dismissed as primitive. The turning point began when a group of human engineers and scientists, ordinary civilians who had once lived simple lives, discovered something hidden deep within the ruins of a long-abandoned military base. It was a relic of humanity's past, a forgotten piece of technology from an old war. At first, the scientists thought it was nothing more than a discarded prototype. But as they began to study it, they realized it was something far more powerful, a device capable of disrupting the alien fleet's advanced communication systems. For the aliens, communication was everything. Without it, their forces would be scattered, unable to coordinate their attacks. If the humans could use this weapon, it would give them a fighting chance. The engineers worked tirelessly, using their limited knowledge and makeshift tools to modify the device, pushing it to its maximum potential. They didn't have much time. The aliens were growing more aggressive, sending down waves of new assault forces, bombarding cities with terrifying precision. The human resistance, despite their creativity, was starting to feel the pressure. But with this new weapon, they had a glimmer of hope. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the engineers and soldiers loaded the modified device onto a stolen alien ship. They knew the odds were slim, but this was their chance to turn the tide. As the human fighter jets soared into the sky, dodging laser fire, the mission was set in motion. The plan was simple: sneak into the heart of the alien fleet's command center and deploy the weapon to cripple their communications. Desperation took hold of the alien commanders. In a last-ditch effort to regain control, they attempted to launch a full-scale assault, hoping that sheer numbers and power could still turn the tide. But their efforts were futile. The humans had already anticipated this move. Using the very terrain that the aliens had once dismissed, the humans set up ambushes in the most unexpected places. Alien soldiers were picked off one by one, their high-tech armor and weapons useless against the ingenuity and unpredictability of their human opponents. In the skies, the remaining human jets circled overhead, picking off the last few alien ships with calculated precision. The alien fleet, once vast and unchallenged, was now a shadow of its former self. Human forces, working in unison, were systematically eliminating the alien threat, one ship, one soldier at a time. The alien leaders, now realizing that victory was no longer within their grasp, made one final attempt to communicate with their forces. But the humans had already anticipated this. Using the same electromagnetic weapon that had disrupted the alien fleet earlier, the resistance launched a powerful signal that wiped out the last remaining traces of the alien communication network. For the aliens, there was no longer any hope of coordinated resistance. And then, in a moment that felt surreal to those who had witnessed the invasion, it happened. The remaining alien ships, those few that had not been destroyed, began to retreat. The once unstoppable empire, now broken and scattered, fled the battlefield. The humans, standing victorious, watched as the alien fleet vanished into the distance, leaving Earth behind. The war was over. The humans had won. As the dust settled and the last of the alien ships disappeared from the sky, humanity stood on the precipice of a new beginning. Cities that had once been reduced to rubble were now filled with the sounds of rebuilding. Families that had lost everything began to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. It was a time of mourning, yes, but also a time of celebration. The impossible had been achieved. The alien empire, which had once believed that Earth would be their easy conquest, had been driven off in a matter of days. They had thought humans were weak, helpless, and incapable of standing up to them. But in the end, it was the aliens who had underestimated humanity's true strength. The humans had fought not just with weapons, but with their hearts. They had fought for their homes, their families, and their future. They had shown the universe that humanity was not to be underestimated. For the aliens, the retreat was a humiliating defeat. They had come to Earth believing they would dominate, believing that their superior technology and power would crush the human race. Instead, they had been outsmarted, outfought, and outlasted. The once proud empire was forced to retreat, its forces in disarray, its leaders struggling to understand how they had been defeated by what they had once called weaklings. The retreating ships left behind a quiet, tense stillness over Earth. The alien forces had been driven away, but the scars of the battle would remain. Humanity had won, but the cost had been high. There would be no easy return to normalcy. The battle had left its mark on the planet, but humanity was resolute. They had proven their strength. They had proven that no matter how dark the odds, they would always find a way to fight back. And with the aliens gone, Earth began to heal. Slowly but surely, the planet and its people rebuilt, knowing that they had faced the impossible and won. The aftermath and humanity's triumph. The war was over, but the echoes of battle reverberated through Earth's cities. The landscape had been forever altered, scared by the alien invasion. The once vibrant metropolises now stood as broken monuments to humanity's resilience. Buildings lay in ruins, entire neighborhoods decimated, and the Earth itself bore the weight of the conflict. Yet amid the wreckage, there was something stronger than the destruction: hope. The surviving humans, weary but victorious, began the slow process of rebuilding their world. Humanity had proven itself, not just through its weapons, but through its heart. The alien forces, which had once thought the conquest of Earth would be a quick and easy affair, now understood the depth of their mistake. They had underestimated the human spirit, and in doing so, had set in motion their own defeat. They had seen humanity as fragile, weak, and insignificant, nothing more than an obstacle. Yet, in the end, it was humanity's resilience, adaptability, and creativity that had shattered the might of the alien empire. In the days following the retreat of the alien fleet, Earth's leaders came together. Representatives from all corners of the world, from every nation, gathered to discuss the future. It wasn't just about rebuilding the infrastructure. It was about rebuilding the very fabric of society. The war had brought the planet to its knees, but it had also united it in a way that had never been seen before. The walls that had once divided nations, races, and cultures began to crumble. Humanity's victory was not just over the alien invaders. It was a victory over the divisions that had once threatened to tear the world apart. Humanity had always fought wars against itself. The history of Earth was filled with conflicts, with divisions that kept the world from reaching its true potential. But now, the war against the aliens had forced humanity to work together, to set aside old grudges in the face of a common enemy. In the aftermath, the desire for peace, for unity, was stronger than ever. People no longer saw themselves as citizens of individual nations, but as part of a single, united Earth. As the months passed, the human race began to recover. The cities were rebuilt, new technologies were developed, and the scars of the war slowly began to fade. The people who had fought for their survival now turned their energy toward creating a better future. The war had shown them the strength they had within themselves, the strength to fight against insurmountable odds, to rise from the ashes of destruction, and to rebuild a world that was stronger than before. But it wasn't just the people on Earth who were changed. The alien empire, broken and humiliated, was forced to retreat into the shadows. Their leaders, once so confident in their ability to conquer any world, now had to grapple with the reality of their defeat. Their empire, vast and powerful, had been toppled by what they had once seen as nothing more than a collection of insignificant, fragile creatures. The aliens would not forget the lesson learned on Earth. They had learned the hard way that underestimating humanity came at a high price, and while they may have retreated for now, the universe would never forget what happened on this small blue planet. As for Earth, the scars of the war remained. But the people who had faced extinction and emerged victorious carried with them a powerful reminder. Humans were never weak. They had faced the impossible and, against all odds, had triumphed. They had shown the galaxy and the universe that no force, no matter how powerful, could ever break the human spirit. Now, Earth stood at the dawn of a new era. The alien invaders had been driven away, and the people of Earth had learned an invaluable lesson. When united, humans could overcome anything. The war had been brutal, but it had forged a stronger humanity, one that would no longer fear the unknown, but would face it with courage and strength. As the leaders of Earth looked toward the future, they saw a world that was not just recovering, but evolving. Technologies that had once seemed far beyond human reach now blossomed in every corner of the planet. Earth's resources, once thought to be limited, were being harnessed in new ways. And above all, the people of Earth had learned to look beyond their differences, united by the knowledge that they were part of something much greater than themselves. Humanity's triumph had not just been over the alien empire. It had been over the limitations they had once placed upon themselves. The war had proven that humans could rise above the chaos, that even in the darkest times, they could find the strength to fight back, to adapt, and to overcome. And so, as the years passed, Earth entered a new age, an age of peace, progress, and unity. The lessons of the war were never forgotten. The story of humanity's victory over the alien invaders became a part of history, a story told from generation to generation. It was a story of strength, of resilience, and of triumph against all odds. For Earth, the battle was over, but the true story was just beginning.